1.
And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann Report for today, a manic Monday. It is Monday, April 29th, 2013. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is my co-host, Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann Report. I want to just welcome new listeners from Redmond, California, Las Cruces, New Mexico, and Albuquerque, all of which we've heard from today, and also new listeners out of Boston. Welcome. Folks, you're listening to the only show where the news is presented to you in 3D. We look beyond the headlines and the bylines and the agendas, and we bring you the news behind the news. We broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Our home base, of course, is HomelandSecurityUS.com. And by the good graces of the Christians United Broadcasting Network, you can find us at the following URL. That's the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com, where you can watch and listen all at one time. That's the Hagmann and HagmannReport.com, all spelled out. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us, and thank you for your belief and your trust in us as we walk through this minefield of current events together. We're a listener-supported broadcast. I want to thank everyone who's helping us stay on the air through your financial support, your contributions, your prayers, and your guidance. Joe, it's a great day to be alive.
Yes, it is, and I want to say we had a great day today. We were on Pastor Paul Begley's show earlier this afternoon from noon to 2, and then I just got done with the Vinnie Eastwood show. I was on there for 2 hours, Vinnie Eastwood out of New Zealand, and tonight you're going to be on Coast to Coast.
That's correct. So we've got a full dance card.
It's been a long day. And we still got a bunch more stuff to do. So let's jump right into the news.
Well, you know, there are so many things that are taking place here. We're seeing, my goodness, we're seeing things happen in Syria. We're seeing things happen here in this country. We're seeing, if you've been following Boston, I mean, my goodness. And I want to warn people, too. There are professionals out there who will take advantage of the situation. What these professionals will do will exploit the innocence of people. For example, someone trying to get to the bottom of the actual story, they'll forward an email to someone and say, "Look, this picture or this situation, it just doesn't seem right." And there are professionals out there who are targeting the recipients of those emails and attempting to make the people, the watchmen, if you will, look like fools. And we want to just warn everyone that don't believe everything you read. There are holes in the story, the official narrative of Boston. My goodness, there are so many holes you can drive semis through. But that doesn't mean every picture that you see is true or hasn't been photoshopped. So just be very wary of where you get this information, because the ultimate objective here is for these professionals to really make you look like the fool and make you look like, well, gee, you know.
They have whole sections of government agencies devoted to doing just this.
Exactly. So while we have to point out the holes in the stories, the holes in the accounts, while we have to point out the fact that, you know, there doesn't seem to be, or there seems to be, this template of things taking place overlaid. For example, you know, there was a drill running the day of Boston. We all know this. Allie Stevenson, I believe his name is, the coach from the University of Mobile, Alistair Stevenson. He had pointed out that there was a drill on the day of the bombing, and it was bomb sniffing dogs and extra police presence. Of course, there was a drill during the bombings in London, and there was a drill in Spain, and there was a drill on 9/11. As a matter of fact, are we not seeing a template? Perhaps are we not seeing things that we should question? And even if given that case of a drill in Boston, even if that was legitimate, how does that make you feel? Knowing that there were bomb sniffing dogs that that never sniffed out the bombs, or how does it make you feel that we had assets there that never identified the people, the bombers, or even the most wanted person?
There's been a release on April 16th, a FBI document and Homeland Security document, Indicators and Protective Measures in Light of Boston Marathon Explosions. On this, they list ongoing concerns with terrorism in the homeland. And here are some of the examples they give. 1. November 2010, plot to detonate vehicle bomb at annual Christmas tree lighting in Portland, Oregon.
Yep.
Wait a second. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Remember the FBI?
Yes.
Was the one that were running these guys, that they were never real explosives.
Right.
Okay, so that was never a real threat because what they did was take a patsy or somebody who said that they might want to commit violence, gave them the real vehicle, the fake explosives, in this case fake explosives, and then arrested them. Unlike the the 1993 World Trade Center bombings, where it was the same situation, only the FBI gave them the real explosives. Also on here is the attempted detonation of a vehicle in Times Square. And they have a IED discovered in 2011 along the Martin Luther King Unity March Parade in Spokane, Washington. To my knowledge, that was also carried out with FBI supervision. So more often than not, and they list the Christmas Day attempted bombing on here as a homegrown terrorist, these lists of attempted terrorism are more often government ran than not.
Well, of course.
Admittedly government ran.
I have got, in fact, it might even be the same type or the same document, or the FBI created 17 false flag terrorist attacks. I don't know if that's what you have there or not, but according to Judge Andrew Napolitano, in the past 10 years, there have been 20 terrorist plots here domestically in the United States. So if you're listening to this overseas, I'm sure you've got your own that you're contending with, but here in the U.S., 20 terrorist plots over the last 10 years. 3 of the plots were real. By real, we're saying it had no external FBI or DHS involvement, but were discovered and stopped by private Americans. The other 17 were created and then stopped by the FBI. And the apparent purpose of these false flag operations, well, it was to deceive Americans into believing that we're under attack by foreign or domestic terrorists who are fictional. And based on the false flag, or based on the false belief, rather, that we're being persistently attacked, Americans tend to accept, and even our government's invasions of foreign countries and our own growing police state, we tend to accept that. We tend to say, look, we need to invade these countries to stop these attacks domestically, or we need to curtail our freedoms here at home, as evidenced by... And I look at this with somewhat incredulous. I look, it's great that we stopped I say it's great at face. If you believe what happened in Boston as it happened, the people who were clapping and chanting USA with the capture of the alleged terrorist suspect, the bombing suspect, I understand that sentiment, but but this is what's being created. That sentiment there is what exactly is what they're after. You know, Joe, if you want to fly in an airplane, you've got to be X-rayed. You got to be groped. You've got to be. You've got to subject yourself to all sorts of physical humiliation. Every government agent, right up to the president, who authorized or participated in these 17 that we know of fraudulent terrorist attacks or attempted attacks, should be tried for treason. Honestly, they should. It's creating an atmosphere of fear, and then taking the people who don't know what's going on and creating really creating enemies of them against the freedom-loving people. So it's
yeah, you're right. I'm going to start off tonight where you mentioned last night we had a show with Pastor David Langford and Steve Quayle. It was a tremendous show. And in the show, you mentioned a news article that came up while the show was ongoing. Pentagon taps anti-Christian extremist for religious tolerance policy.
Oh, this is, folks, this is so important, but it's so insane. Please listen to this.
This is from Breitbart.com. Today we face inevitably well-funded gangs of fundamental Christian monsters who terrorize their fellow Americans by forcing their weaponized and twisted version of Christianity upon their helpless subordinates in our nation's armed forces. Those words were recently written by Mark Weinstein, founder of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. In a column he wrote for the Huffington Post, Weinstein will be a consultant to the Pentagon to develop new policies on religious tolerance, including a policy for court-martialing military chaplains who share the Christian gospel of during spiritual counseling of American troops. Weinstein decries what he calls virulent religious oppression perpetrated by conservative Christians, whom he refers to as monstrous, unconstitutional carpetbaggers, comparing them to bigots in the Deep South during the Civil Rights era.
Right.
He cites Dr. James Dobson, the famous Christian founder of Focus on the Family, as illustrating the extremist, militant nature of these homophobic organizations, rhetorically charged propaganda. Regarding those who teach Orthodox Christian beliefs from the Bible, Weinstein concludes, let's call these ignoble actions what they are. The senseless and cowardly squallings of human monsters. Weinstein then endorses the ultra-left Southern Poverty Law Center, no surprise there, whose list of hate groups published their list of hate groups alongside organizations like the KKK. Southern Poverty Law Center lists traditional Christian organizations, such as people who stand up for traditional marriage, the Tea Party organizations supporting limited government. He says they are all hate groups.
Right.
So now this guy's going to be at the Pentagon teaching religious freedom policy out of the Pentagon with his views that Christians are bigoted, carpetbagging, unconstitutional monsters who oppress people with their religious beliefs.
Well, what we have is the influx of the Muslim Brotherhood into the military for the express purpose of taking down our military from within, to weaken our military. But see, look, the whole ultimate agenda here, folks, is not to elevate Islam over Christianity, although that's part of it. But the end result here is to take religion out of everything, so we have nothing but a state religion. That's the ultimate objective. You know, look, we face an incredibly, according to this Weinstein, and I want to read this comment once again. He writes, today, we face incredibly well-funded gangs of fundamentalist Christian monsters who terrorize their fellow Americans by forcing their weaponized and twisted version of Christianity upon their helpless subordinates in our nation's armed forces. Where in the hell are the Christians, the Christian monsters? Where are they? You show me, Mr. Weinstein, where these Christian monsters. Identify the Christian monsters. Who is this idiot? Who is Mickey Weinstein, the founder of Military Religious Freedom Foundation? Let's get him on the phone. Let's talk to him. Let's grill him. Let's put him up against a committee of Christians. Let's find out what Weinstein's agenda is. You know, we don't have to. You know why? Because Weinstein is a satanic Luciferian idiot who thinks that people will tolerate this kind of bunk. And it's about time that we as Christians stand up and say, you know what, Weinstein? You don't deserve 1 second of our time. Not today, not ever. Ever. In Huffington Post. What a piece of trash. What a waste of electrons. Huffington Post. Weinstein could be a consultant to...
All right. No, that's all right. You just blew the speakers and the eardrums. How's it sound?
Unconstitutional carpetbaggers. What is this guy? A 60s hippie? Seriously.
I did not have time to do the research on who he is.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
But you know what? The vomit factor here. You know, he cites. Did you talk about this? He cites Dr. James Dobson, the famous Christian founder of Focus on the Family, as illustrating the extremist militant nature of these virulently homophobic organizations, rhetorically charged propaganda. And I'm serious. I am really, really aggravated, okay, at Mickey Weinstein. Hey, Mickey. Let's get him on over. Let's get him on the program. I'd love to have him on the program. I'd love to find out what makes this guy tick. Aside from the satanic aspect, and you know, this reminds me too, Joe, of and I know you're tired of talking, and for folks, frankly, I'll tell you what, my mouth. I had surgery last week in my mouth. I haven't been. You know, doctor says, hey, try not to talk too much. I've been talking ever since. All right, so it's the size of a grapefruit. It feels like it anyway. And it's kind of like somebody poking me in the face with a sharp stick. So my nerve, you know, it's my nerve that's left is barely there. But the fact of the matter is, this reminds me of Douglas Coughlin from the Pentagon, who wrote this 330 some odd page report about Islam, about these Islamic. These Islamic leaders infiltrating the Pentagon. Compliments, by the way, of George W. Bush. Compliments of Grover Norquist. Compliments of the Republicans who think that we could coexist. That the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Joseph and Jacob is the same God as the God of every Islamic person out there, which is an absolute falsehood. You know, it's just, what are we doing to this country? We're destroying it from the inside out. And I'm sorry if you think that I'm a little bit crass, but I got to tell you something. How much more are Americans going to take? How much more are Christians going to take? When are we going to stand up and say enough is enough?
Well, let's listen to this news clip here on marriage. Gay marriage is a lie. It's a lie, destruction of marriage. They want to destroy marriage through gay marriage. This clip from a lesbian activist, Maisha Geeson, author and outspoken activist for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community. Her speech has now gone viral, and it includes a theory that many supporters of traditional marriage have speculated about for years. The push for gay marriage has less to do with the right to marry It is more about diminishing and eventually destroying the institution of marriage and redefining the traditional family. Here is what she had to say.
I agree. It's a no-brainer that we should have the right to marry, but I also think equally that it's a no-brainer that the institution of marriage should not exist. So that.
Oh, listen to that cheering! Listen to that cheering.
That causes my brain some trouble, and part of it, why it causes me trouble, is because fighting for gay marriage generally involves lying about what we're going to do with marriage when we get there. You know, because we lie that the institution of marriage is not going to change. And that is a lie. The institution of marriage is going to change, and it should change. And again, I don't think it should exist. I don't like taking part in creating fictions about my life. That's sort of not what I had in mind when I came out 30 years ago. You know, I have 3 kids who have 5 parents, more or less. And I don't see why they shouldn't have 5 parents legally. I don't see why we should choose 2 of those parents and make them into a sanctioned couple. And because between those 5 parents we have 2 groups with 2 different citizenships, 2 groups of 3.
You might need to take us through that.
All right, so there you have them saying what they really mean, that they want to gay marriage is a lie, and all this has to do with is destroying the traditional definition of marriage, and they want to get rid of marriage completely. And you heard the clapping. She said, what was her quote? She didn't care about gay marriage. The real agenda is destroying marriage altogether, the definition of marriage altogether.
Well, at least they're being honest about it. Before it was a hidden agenda. Now we can point to this this lesbian. That's what she is, right? She's a lesbian. Mm-hmm. Okay, she's a Okay, so we can point to this homosexual and say, okay, this is the actual agenda of the homosexual crowd. End of story. You know, it's about time that the news media cover stories like this and cover the Gosnell trial, where the truth of abortion, for example, comes out, the infanticide, all right, comes out. What this monster and these co-conspirator monsters allegedly, because there's still a trial going on, allegedly did at this Philadelphia abortion clinic. Where in the world are the reporters on this story? What did you say today, Joe, that really got my goat? 109 minutes worth of news about this absurd trial between, some college student? 109 minutes, and not one flippin' second that they could afford about this abortion trial?
Of course not. The reason being, if they really had to show the horrific, murderous nature of these abortions, people might change their mind and perception about how they view abortion.
Yeah, let's describe. Read the 200-page indictment. Okay, how they describe these viable human precious lives that cry before their spine is cut and their brains are sucked out. And if that offends anyone, I'm sorry, but that's what this monster did. All right. But I fault the news media. I fault look, when you start looking at who is responsible for deciding what to cover, where do you go? Okay, I turn on my television set. You got CBS, ABC, NBC. Then you've got the cable channels, MSNBC, that puke fest. Then you've got Fox. Then you've got MSNBC and the rest, all right? But when it comes down to it, who owns all these places? Well, you got about, 6 people? 6 families? Who are these 6 families who are the people that make the decisions over what to cover and what not to cover? You got Fox. You got 12% ownership by a Saudi royal. Oh, isn't that great? Yeah, bragging that he can change the headlines to avoid any type of use of the word Islamic terrorism in that one instance. And if he can do it once, he can do it more than once. And then if you got MSNBC, which is just filled with fruitcakes and I was going to use another F word there, but I'm not going to. Fruitcakes and fruitcakes. Okay, but you see what's going on here? You've got this revolting, and I mean a revolting misdirection. The news is we are being forced to watch things like this silliness that goes on with this one trial. Yet the horror behind the deaths of these children, these otherwise viable human beings. Oh, we can't cover that. That's too offensive. That's too offensive. Well, Hillary Clinton, Margaret Sanger, and if you don't know who Margaret Sanger is, that's Hillary Clinton's heroine, and Margaret Sanger is, of course, one of the biggest racists who ever lived. She's dead now. But Margaret Sanger was a racist who was all for abortion, and especially if the children were black. Boy, that's even better. Let's kill all the black kids. That's Margaret Sanger. That's the heroine of Hillary Clinton, who, by the way, will probably run in 2016.
And this is our current president's view on abortion.
As long as we've got to fight to make sure women have access to quality, affordable health care, and as long as we've got to fight to protect a woman's right to make her own choices about her own health, I want you to know that you've also got a president who's going to be right there with you, fighting every step of the way. Thank you, Planned Parenthood. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you.
That was President Obama.
God bless Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. And what I want to do here is I'm going to play this clip, Rand Paul from today. This segues into the next piece of news we're going to hit. Here's Rand Paul. This is only a minute.
And an issue, sir.
Well, you know, if the government's going to use cameras to watch us, they need to have probable cause. They need to have an argument to use the Constitution to do surveillance on us, and then I'm okay with it. But willy-nilly on everybody all the time in open spaces, I'm against that. One thing that's lost in this debate, though, is almost all the cameras that were used to catch these young men in Boston were private cameras, and I'm not opposed to private companies using surveillance cameras to protect their property.
Senator, we were in Times Square, and we talked to a bunch of people, and with to the T, to the very last person, everyone said, I want more cameras. I want it, especially in areas that are prone to attacks. They want more. Why shouldn't we have more?
You know, I think in the aftermath of a terrible tragedy where all of us wanted to get these young men who committed this atrocity and we want to see them tried and convicted, I think there's a lot of emotion and anger towards this. Right after 9/11, if you interviewed people, 70-some-odd% of people said they would trade their freedom, all of their freedom, for security. That number's now more back to 50-50, which is about where it always is. But I think it's important to know it's a slippery slope, and someday you may have cameras everywhere. Think of 1984, where the cameras were in your bedroom and in your dining room, everywhere. You never went a moment's notice without being watched. There is a downside to that, and we have to be careful not to slide in that direction.
You're right, Senator. I'm in the camp that says more cameras. If I'm not...
All right, there was Rand Paul talking about the no need for more cameras, no need for government intrusion, taking it to the next level. But here, a story from WorldNet Daily. Americans fear government more than terror. According to a pair of recent polls, for the first time since 9/11 terrorist hijackings, Americans are more fearful of their government, that they will abuse their constitutional liberties, than fail to keep citizens safe. Even in the wake of the April 15th Boston Marathon bombing, in which a pair of Islamic radicals are accused of planting explosives that took the lives of 3 and wounded more than 280, the polls indicate Americans are hesitant to give up any further freedoms in exchange for increased security. A Fox News survey polling a random national sample of 619 registered voters the day after the bombing found Americans responded very differently than after 9/11. Of those surveyed April 16th, 2013, 45% said no to the question, compared to 43% answering yes. The question is, would you be willing to give up your personal freedoms in order to reduce the risk of a terrorism threat? So,
by the way, that's what I'm going to be on Coast to Coast tonight talking about during the news hour. Tom Danheiser got me at a vulnerable moment today, and I said sure I'd go on during the news hour, but that's the subject of my dissertation, and I'll try to keep it, I'll try to play nice and color within the lines on Coast to Coast. But this is what it's all about, isn't it, Joe, in the end? And I heard you a little bit talking in New Zealand, your voice resonating off the walls of homes in New Zealand. Kind of hard for me to believe, 30 years ago I was changing your diaper, but but anyway, this is what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, this in the end, isn't this what it's all about? We are a nation that fears our own government, and it's got to stop, folks. And Boston was a part of it.
I'm going to go right to another clip here. Pro-gun Democrat Joe Manchin won't stop until there is gun control, despite what the American people say.
Manchin and these people. I'm going to start calling them Manson. Look, these people are insane. These people are literally. I swear, I believe these people are legitimately insane by definition, because they are so. Look. To the people who own guns out there, you don't think about your guns every day. You don't hold your guns and caress them and
speak for yourself.
Oh yeah, I did see you sleeping with yours. No,
I do.
But see, you don't do that. You're not obsessed by your weapons. You're not obsessed by your ammunition. These people have a psychological obsession, and think about it. But do you know why? Because they are going to disarm us. And I want to thank Marianne. She sent Joe and I a book called "Surviving the Economic Collapse: The Modern Survival Manual." It's written by a guy that was there every step of the way during the Argentinian collapse. Okay, you're going to need those guns, folks. You're going to, among other things. You see, they are disarming us because they are planning on taking us over. They're planning on making us slaves. They're planning on, and if you think that this for 1 second, if you think that I'm overstating the case, they're going to take your wives and your daughters, and they're going to have their way with them. Don't think for 1 minute that they're not going to do that, because history tells you otherwise. I'm sorry. Go ahead and go to. Do you go into a clip or something? I can't remember.
Yep, going to a clip. This is pro-gun Democrat Joe Manchin.
Senator Manchin, you and fellow Republican Senator Pat Toomey were the co-authors of this expanded background check that was voted down a few days ago in the Senate. You're talking about revising the bill, bringing it back to the Senate floor. It came out today that your co-sponsor, Pat Toomey, says, no, I'm done with it. Do you really think that the expansion of background checks can be revised and can be passed by the U.S.
I truly do. The only thing that we've asked for is that people would just read the bill. It's a criminal and mental background check, strictly at gun shows and online sales. The way the law is today, if you go to a gun store, you have a background check done. If you go to a gun show and you go to a licensed dealer, they still do a background check. But you can go to the next table over and have no check at all. You can go online if you buy a gun out of state online.
But Senator, respectfully, we knew all that beforehand, and your colleagues didn't vote for it.
Chris, I think there was some confusion. The first bill that came out basically was dropped, the Chuck Schumer bill, which is all-inclusive. We talked to Chuck, and he backed off of that, and we worked on what we thought was a much better bill, especially coming from a gun culture that I come from in West Virginia. I'd gone down and worked the bill into the coal fields, into the gun-friendly West Virginians that I hunt with and sport shoot with, And all of them to a T, when they saw the bill, this basically not only protects your Second Amendment right, it expands your Second Amendment rights.
But and we're running out of time here. Pat Toomey, co-sponsor of Manchin Toomey, says he's done.
I don't think he's done. I really don't. I was with Pat last night, and Pat's totally committed to this bill, and I believe that with all of my heart, and we're going to work this bill. When people read the bill, if they'll just take time to read it. I've said this, if you're a law-abiding gun owner, you all love this bill. If you're a criminal, if you've been mentally adjudicated through a court, you probably won't like it. But while we're doing, we don't infringe on anybody's rights, individual rights, transfers of family.
But I want to make it clear, you are going to bring this bill back to the Senate floor, and you think it's going to be different?
I truly believe that if we have time to sell the bill and people will read the bill, and I'm willing to go anywhere in this country, I'm willing to debate anybody on this issue, read the bill and you tell me what you don't like. We stop registration completely from the standpoint of a felony with 15 years of imprisonment.
And as part of the idea here that you are going to strip it away and separate it from...
The bill needs to be clean, I believe. That's my belief, that if the bill runs clean and people can vote on this bill up or down based on the merits of this bill, how that protects a gun, Second Amendment...
All right, enough of that. Just more lies and nonsense coming out of the Washington circle of garbage. We have this Manchin saying, this really is going to... And for these people to think anything from a total gun ban to simple registry is going to do anything to keep guns out of the hands of criminals by them is absolutely insane. We just need to look at drugs, which are completely illegal, yet the United States is the number one, ingests the most drugs, 50% of the nation's drugs, just in the United States, but they're illegal. But somehow they make their ways here. Just like
I want to comment on this. Okay, this drug stuff. I had such a hard time getting my pain medication for my surgery. It was. I'm not going to get into details, but I had the pharmacist on the phone, and I'll tell you what: if I could have reached through the phone and grabbed her by the throat, and she knew I was in pain, and she knew that I was like a bear with a sore behind. Okay. The law-abiding Americans cannot. I mean, you've got to have a note from your doctor, two signatures from Congress, your mother's DNA, and the I don't know, a rabbit's foot in order to get what, Sudafed or Actifed or whatever feds, the stuff that they use to make methamphetamines. You can't buy it in the aisle. And then when you do go buy Sudafed or Actifed or whatever that stuff is, you've got to show them your license, and you've got to prove you can't buy more than 2 boxes. You've got to do plus. Oh, if you do, you're put on a list somewhere. Give me a break, okay? How much sense does all this make? So you're telling? See, I'm going off on the drug tangent, but see, you brought it up. You're right. Our system, we have a dysfunctional government. The key word here is dysfunctional, and the key is to keep it dysfunctional, because that's the only way that they are going to win, is if it maintains this level of dysfunctionality, this level of insanity. And don't be fooled for one moment, by the way. We are the biggest offenders of international law. This Obama regime, the Napolitanos, the Holders, the Kerrys, the Clintons, all these people. We're the biggest gun running operation the world has ever seen. Just think Benghazi, and no, Benghazi was not about a thwarted kidnapping plot. It had nothing to do with the blind sheik. It was all about gun running, and it still is, except this time the guns are coming from a different direction, that being Croatia, among other places. But see, it's okay for the American CIA to run guns and run drugs, but don't you dare try to buy more than 2 boxes of Sudafed or Actifed, or don't you dare think that you can buy more than, or you can buy a magazine with more than 10 rounds in New York or 7 or whatever it is because you're a bad person.
Meanwhile, the United States is moving closer to military intervention in Syria. Exploiting the unsubstantiated rumor that Syria used chemical weapons, Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham went on the Sunday news shows to push for military intervention in Syria. Graham predicted Syria would become a failed state by the end of the year without military intervention. He has said not intervening would result in war with Iran because Iran's going to take our inaction in Syria as meaning we're not serious about their nuclear weapons program.
So it's a fait accompli.
I mean, this is just
fait accompli. Look, we're going to war, and folks, we told you this back.
I think we're in war right now. Yeah, we are going to war, and Lindsey Graham went on to say the whole region is going to fall into chaos if we do not go to war with 500,000 soldiers.
Hey, Free Republic. Hey, Jim Robinson, where I'm banned over there, Free Republic, and your Republican bots. How y'all feeling now about Lindsey Graham when your sons and daughters, we told you, see, the articles that you spiked, my articles that you spiked, Mr. Olive Garden, the articles that you spiked, that said that we were going to war in Syria, we were facing World War III. So the people that post on your forum that are now whining and saying, I didn't know. Okay, how you feeling now? Huh? We warned you about this. We warned you.
That kind of sounded like a seal, beached, looking to get back in the water there.
I probably look like one too. No, look, I'm done with my rants, folks. Look, seriously, I am done with my rants. But we're trying to get the truth out there, and do you understand that we're facing World War III here? Do you understand that this is for all of the marbles? Do you understand how serious this is? That you could wake up tomorrow, and there could be a draft, and your children, your adult children, could be being drafted, and that we could be seeing bombs. And do you understand how serious this is? I know you do. But to your neighbors, to your friends, to I mean, and the fact that this just didn't happen. You see, and to the people who made fun of us, anyone, whether it be God bless her soul, I just had I'm having a senior moment here. The woman that the attorney Orly Tates that we had on, you make fun of her because she's fighting to get Obama to have him prove his eligibility, and of course that's all distraction. You think for one moment that Obama is not in this very moment in time as selected as the president of the United States? Do you think that he is not here to complete a job? How do you think he got here? By the way, folks, I'd like to direct you to an article I just put up. It's called Bad Moon Over America. There's 2 places, if you don't mind. HomelandSecurityUS.com and CanadaFreePress.com. Please read this. It's kind of a lengthy read at 2,700 words, so it's probably 3 times the normal length of an article that you would normally read. But it has personal experiences in there along with the larger picture of things. It's kind of a larger picture article. I did this in a drug-induced haze, so it should be entertaining as well as informative. Insert laugh track here. Okay, now, I'm sorry, I'm reading from the teleprompter. I guess what I'm saying is if you don't mind, like it on Facebook, spread it around on the social networking. We're trying to get this out. I think that the message behind this is important, and definitely leave a comment at Canada Free Press because that does attract search engines. It does. We're fighting, by the way, search engines. The search engines are Google and Bing are the 2 search engines right now that are actively fighting against the truth.
What they won't do is categorize this in the news category of their search engines.
Right. Plus, for example, there are algorithms that people have made that will, if the word eligibility shows up, or if the word zero for Obama, and all variations of these search engines are being manipulated to draw these cyber warriors to these various sites, to inundate the sites with traffic. So there's denial of service attacks. So legitimate, normal people like you and I can't get on, number one, and number two, also draws the cyber warriors over there to quote debunk the facts, and the programs are actually being run through Google and through Bing as search engines. So use alternative search engines. But that said, please, HomelandSecurityUS.com and also CanonFreePress.com, if you don't mind, it's not that I'm pimping the articles, I'm pimping the message. The message has to get out. It's called Bad Moon Over America. And like I said, written in a drug-induced haze, entertaining as well as informative, but it's a big picture of things behind what's taking place today. And if we don't stop what's going on, then we are going to shed blood. See, 3 people reportedly died in Boston, and numbers, how many? A couple hundred were seriously injured. We're going to be crying over a lot more than that in a very short period of time if they have their ways, if we continue with this Saudi globalist agenda. And I believe truly that they're not intending on stopping. And I really think between the defanging of our military, between the economic factors, the moral debasement of this country. And I don't know whether you saw this sickening story, and I'm just going to reference this. I'm not even going to go beyond it. But this girl in Pittsburgh. By the way, is this what we send our kids to college for? I mean, if this was my daughter, I would walk to Pittsburgh, drag her by the hair, and drag her back. And Joe, you know I would. Okay, you know I would. Okay.
I'm not sure what you're about to get into, but yeah, you would for minor offenses. So I'm imagining what you're about to read is nothing minor.
CMU parade, Carnegie Mellon University parade of freedom of expression. This girl,
I heard about this.
Okay, you know what? I'm not even going to get into it.
No, I think you should read just a little bit about what it was about and what happened.
All right. I got to get my blood pressure meds here. All right, look. The students at Carnegie Mellon say it's freedom of expression. And I'll tell you something, okay? If this is freedom of expression, I want the same girl to do this. I want her to dress up as Muhammad in the same fashion, okay? And then we'll call it freedom of expression. You dress up as Muhammad. You got the cojones to dress up as Muhammad, call it freedom of expression, go for it. Then I'll clap for you. Because you know why? Because you don't have the guts. Because... and not only that, you'd be sued from 7 Ways to Sunday, and also you would be called a bigot and an Islamophobe and worse, and you'd have suits. But anyway, here's the deal: this student puke at Carnegie Mellon says it's a freedom of expression, but the Catholic Diocese of Pittsburgh calls it inappropriate and disrespectful. Do you think? Now, here's what she did. At an annual art school parade, this female student dressed up as the Pope. Well, just from the waist up. The waist down, she had nothing. Nothing. She was naked from the waist down. And then passed out condoms. And I'm not going to get into the rest. I'm going to stop it right there. There was more, but let's just stop it right there. If you want to read about it, read about this.
Yeah. But try handing out biblical literature on the sidewalk there.
How about she dresses up as Muhammad and yeah, it takes Christian tracts and hands them out, and let's see what happens. And we'll call that freedom of expression. And let's just see what happens. Let's just see how long that will last, and who will back her. And of course, she's getting backing from all these all these people, and but where's the outrage over this? There's barely any.
Well, as far as the outrage is this, if people aren't outraged at the abortions that are taking place daily, people aren't outraged. I was reading a story here from RT News feed. This was from 1:36 this afternoon. Somalia famine kills 260,000 people. The 2011 famine in Somalia killed an estimated 260,000 people, half of them age 5 and under. According to a new report published this week, the aid community believes that tens of thousands of people died needlessly because the international community was slow to respond to early signs of approaching hunger in East Africa in late 2010, early 2011. The report is being made public on Thursday by FEWSNET, a famine early warning system, and by Food Security and Nutrition Analysis Unit of Somalia. Now, that's the end of the report. So 260,000 people died in a famine in Somalia because of slow action or inaction. How fast did we send troops over there, set up a drone bases and military complexes in North Africa? How fast are we sending people weapons to the Muslim Brotherhood, making sure that the Syrian rebels are getting their aid?
Wait a second. How many people?
260,000 people, half age 5 or under, died of starvation because of international.
Why don't we just drone them? Let's just drone them.
Probably because the bombs are expensive. The money that they use to build the bombs to kill people could have fed all these people, I'm sure. One bomb.
Well, yeah, it's ridiculous. I never thought that today, in 2013, I mean, I remember the 70s somewhat, but oh my goodness, what have we done? What have we done? What are we doing?
That's just it. What are we doing? Here, I'll hit this story, then we'll go to break, and we'll come back after my father takes some nitroglycerin and his blood pressure medicine. Child abducted by Child Protective Services after parents seek a second medical opinion. I'm going to play this audio here.
A Russian couple living in the U.S. are battling to get back their 5-month-old baby boy who was seized by Child Protection Services. The authorities stepped in when Alex and Anna Nikolaev sought a second opinion after their child was diagnosed with a heart murmur and was ordered to undergo immediate surgery. My colleague Sean Thomas managed to catch up with the boy's parents.
We've been shocked when they walked in our door and all they've been saying is just, let us see your son if he's okay. And I said, I'm holding him in my arms. He is okay. You can take a look. And they're saying, give me your child. And that's when they took away no paper, whatsoever they've been providing, and they just walked out of our door.
Was any reason given behind the 9/11 call from the hospital after you took your own child to another hospital for a second opinion? I mean, have they given you any reason whatsoever?
They say that he's in emergency, that he's almost dying, that he needs medical treatment, and that he needs to get back to the hospital immediately.
Do you believe this?
No, he was fine. He was laughing. He was eating. He was a normal child, a normal baby to go home.
And he was released from the other hospital we took him to. The doctor released the baby and did a statement, said the parents are basically good to go home with their baby. The baby is safe in their arms.
Very interesting. Now, taking a step back, Facebook and social networks, they are a way for you to get support. And you said Facebook shut down a page that you set up to get support for your case. Did they give you any reason why they closed down this page?
No, I think it has everything to do with the government. We got a lot of support. We got a lot of prayers, a lot of people who were there, just praying for us. And all of a sudden, the first Facebook page they blocked. We called Facebook, basically my sister-in-law called Facebook, no answer. Every question that she was asking them, there was no answer coming back. We opened a second Facebook page for support. same thing happened again.
Your child hasn't been allowed home in 4 days. What's going through your mind?
It kills me. I don't have my baby with me at nighttime. I just visiting him, been visiting him 3 times today for an hour, and then you're leaving at 7 o'clock with, again, an empty heart going home. Your baby's not with you. You're just feeling empty. There's missing something in you, and we're just waiting for tomorrow's day just to, coming in this court, hearing good news, taking your baby, going home, or going to a different hospital.
Well, the parents are now facing tortuous court proceedings, and according to their lawyer, it will take time, effort, and patience to bring the child back home.
History says that CPS will win this case at the initial spot. Judges will tend to err on the side of caution. I am hopeful that when all of the evidence is put forth and the facts are shown, it will be very clear that these are wonderful parents who have taken every measure to care for their son, have done everything appropriately, and have done nothing more than just liked one particular doctor and wanted to have their son cared by someone who they had faith and confidence in.
We're going to take this crap lying down. Is this what we're going to do? Now, this is kidnapping.
Remember Melissa Harris Perry saying children or parents need to get rid of the idea that children belong to them. Well, of course. What this couple do? This couple took their baby to a hospital. The one hospital wanted to perform heart surgery on the baby. They said, you know what, we're going to get a second opinion. They took it to another hospital, their baby. They were discharged from that hospital. The doctor said, okay, you can go. Police showed up to their house. The first day the police showed up to their house, they saw the baby. It was in good health. And they said, okay. They left, only to return the following day and take the baby. After bullying their way inside the house, they sat the parents down and they grabbed the baby and left. So, because they decided to get a second opinion, and this is the only stated reason I can see, they had their child taken away.
Now, do you know why that we get upset with Melissa Harris Perry, her lunatic ramblings that children belong to the collective, that you as parents don't have really any authority over your children? What kind of lunatics are running this asylum, really?
Her quote, we have to break through our private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families. End of quote.
And of course, that's an extension of Hillary's "it takes a village to raise a child." These are all communist, and I mean communist with a capital C, communist phrases, and words mean things. So maybe lean forward for MSNBC's tagline means that you should be ready to accept the thrust from behind. As you bend over to lean forward. This is what it's all about, because this is in fact, this is what my article Bad Moon Over America is about. It's about grabbing your ankles collectively if we don't stand up individually and collectively to take a stand right now. And I mean right now, because soon we were going to see a third world war. We're going to be toe-to-toe with Russia eventually, and China. Russia and China have already geared up monetarily. That is to say, they've created a monetary reserve to kill the dollar. And remember that article, Just Kill the Dollar, that I wrote about, that Kyle Bass had talked to a senior Obama official, of course, about just killing the dollar. Explained to me on what planet that killing the U.S. dollar makes sense from a United States perspective. And of course, that article did get a lot of traction. I would also urge people to spread the word about that article as well, because that speaks volumes about the economic war that we are facing. And see, the people that are going to get hurt the most are the Americans listening to this, you and me. Anyone, I shouldn't say just the Americans, anyone using a U.S. currency as their reserve currency, we're going to be hurt the worst. And you know who's going to be hurt the worst? The middle class, the people with the $500 or the $1,000 or the $10,000 or whatever you might have in savings and annuities, investments, or whatever you would have, you're going to get hurt the worst. They're going to take your money. That money is going to be gone. And I'm going to tell you something. It's coming. And we get called as alarmists by people on various websites, web forums, and such. We hope we can live up to the term alarmist, because now is the time to sound the alarm. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I'm Doug Hagmann, not to be confused with my son, Joe Hagmann, co-host of Together We Are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. And this is a manic Monday, the 29th day of April, 2013. This is a live broadcast, if you're listening to it live, that is. And once again, welcome, new listeners in Redmond, Las Cruces, and Albuquerque. Aren't you glad you tuned in? We're right back after these messages. Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Aileta Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
You want answers? I'll get everything you want. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Monday, April 29th, 2013. Joe Hagmann here, along with my co-host Doug Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Some bad news for New York City school kids and parents. Department of Education wants to expand the school day. This from CBS New York. The school day is about to get longer for some New York City school kids, and we're not talking about a couple of minutes. It's going to be about 2 to 2.5 hours longer. If the scores go up, the plan could be extended citywide. CBS 2's Marissa Kramer reported Monday. City officials hope, so they're launching a pilot program with 2,000 middle school students to see if an idea whose time has come will work. It's where the achievement gap really seems to grow in New York City. About 3/4 of 7th and 8th graders, 3/4 of 7th and 8th graders do not read at a proficiency level. City Council Speaker Christine Quinn said.
We're just illustrating the literacy level. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, under a pilot program that will start in September, 6th graders at 20 schools throughout the city will stay in the classroom at least 2.5 hours longer for intensive language tutoring every day. They will continue and then continue the longer day into 7th and 8th grades. If they outperform other kids, the city will seek to expand the program. I don't see this as a city initiative to make kids smarter. They can make kids smarter by changing the curriculum they teach them, not the time that it takes them to teach. The only thing I see with the time additional adding is the time that they are kept away from their parents and the influence of their parents.
We have to replace indoctrination with actual education. We've got to get rid of the Department of Education, which was a communist plank to begin with. Folks, if you don't understand that, and I think it's so important for everyone to understand what the Department of Education, why it was set up, who set it up, and what its objectives are. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Department of Education is no friend to education. It's indoctrination, 100%. It's to suck the intelligence from your child and to replace that intelligence with nothing but this state-sanctioned pablum. That's what this is all about. And you're right. See, in order for us to have a class act education system, the whole system has to be working in concert together correctly. You've got to have a solid family unit from which to send a malleable child to school. No, I'm not talking about a home with Steve and Robert and Maggie and Sue. No, I'm talking about a husband and a wife, married in a stable environment. You send that child to a school with educators who actually teach things like math and history. Oh, history. Not revisionist history, not the Bill Ayers history, but history. And then, of course, you've got to, and you know what? They should also teach responsible gun handling as well, and require the children to bring in their own .22 long rifles at a certain time when they're of age, the appropriate age, and then have them teach them how to handle weapons appropriately. That way, there's no accidents or fewer accidents, and no one's afraid of weapons or guns, and people understand the importance of them. Okay, and now that's what we need. So we need to replace these educators with actual teachers.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we need.
Yes, I do agree. All right, we're going to be moving on.
All right, what's and by the way, folks, what's up with this audio tonight again?
I jumped off and jumped on as a guest. I jumped off the host call and jumped on as a guest. Are you hearing distortion? Because I was hearing distortion on the main call.
All right, so apparently what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to contact the hosting provider and get this audio resolved again. And but that said, but see, going back to the New York City, you've got Bloomberg, and I understand he's not directly involved in this process, but as the king mayor of New York City, he should be. somewhat directing the process. But we need to kick the Department of Education the heck out of our educational system, close it down, save some money, put some teachers instead of educators in these schools, and teach our children the proper subjects. That way we can be once again first in education like we were. And we need to but again, it starts with a solid family unit, which we're not getting. Look, there's so many other pieces to the news, or other parts of news as well, that we need to get to. I know that I've gone on rants here, but I think it's important for people really to get their blood going a little bit once in a while, because you see, we need to really have a handle on the path. They're grabbing our hands, folks, among other appendages, and dragging us down this rosy path here to a third world war, to economic Armageddon itself. This is what we're facing. And I just want to say, I'm not liking it. And certainly if I had any children of age, well, maybe I do, for a draft, I certainly would not permit the government, and that's correct, permit the government to draft them into one of their wars for their international banking globalist agendas that were the architects like Rockefeller and Rothschild and Kissinger and Brzezinski, and even if you get into the later years, even the Bush dynasty, the Clinton regime, the Obama regime, these people are all members. And if you look at them closely, if you really get down to the research of who these people are all royalty. And Joe, the other night you said something, and I wanted to make sure that this is. I wanted to bring this up to you off air, but I forgot about this. And remember when we were talking about, and folks, you might remember this. We were talking about that Bilderberg meeting in Chantilly, Virginia, where Obama came out the victor, and then was thusly selected to be the candidate for president of the United States. Remember that? We were talking about that subject.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I do.
All right. That meeting was extremely important, and we cannot underestimate, and nor should people underestimate the importance of that meeting. The people behind Hillary were really forcing. I mean, we're really advocating her candidacy, as were the people behind Obama. But they chose, folks, listen to this, and please understand this. They chose the European model, which Obama best represents. And that's how it was decided. Well, I shouldn't say that's only how, but in part, the European model. And we have to understand how these things work in order to know who we're fighting and what we're fighting, what we're up against. That meeting the importance of that meeting cannot and should not be understated or at all. So I just wanted to revisit that and to let you know that, yeah, there are people who are responsible for the selection of not only the candidates, but the selection of the president. Because just as with wars, for example, the First World War, the international bankers hedged their bets by financing and funding both sides of World War I, both sides of World War II, and both sides of the Cold War, both sides of the revolution in Russia. You've got to understand what's taking place. And today, the globalists are funding both sides, or all sides, of this three-dimensional war that we're fighting. It's so important to understand that what we see on TV, what we hear, what these idiot claptrap people, whether I look on Sunday morning. I sit. My father-in-law who's unfortunately got this hideous, hideous, and I mean hideous, onset of Alzheimer's. I sit with him every Sunday morning, and together we'll watch the morning show on Fox. which he can relate to, the Chris Wallace program. And I look at William Crystal. If there's one person I'd like to slap the smug smile from, is that person. And Britt Hume. I mean, take that stick out of Britt Hume, okay? Honestly. Are you serious? That stick is up there so far. And then Juan. Oh, dear Juan Williams. The reason I mention this is these are people who we are listening to, who the average American person are listening to. These are the very same people who are responsible for the eventual destruction or the ultimate destruction of our nation. Yet we are listening to these people. Boy, I just got off on a tangent there. I don't even remember what we were talking about, Joe.
I'm enjoying listening. You just keep going. I'll just sit over here and relax. No. It is sad what we're seeing, and I thought this article was interesting here. This is something I didn't notice or even know that happened. There was originally fingered as a culprit by 4-channel users has been found dead. Sunil Tripathi, originally fingered as a culprit. I'm not sure if I read that name right, but he was
definitely from Mayberry.
Police in Providence pulled the man's body from the Providence River on Tuesday, and authorities says it is possible that it is Sunil Tripathi, 22, a former Brown University student who has been missing since mid-March, reports the Boston Globe. He had a possible connection to the Boston bombing that was first raised by users of the Channel 4 website when it was pointed out that his image bore a similarity to one of the first suspects named by the FBI, who later turned out to be the older brother. Well, interestingly enough, his body has been found in the river.
Huh. You know, it just happens. Look, it just happens. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boy, this echo is just terrible. Okay. You know, and I'm not sure if you know about the Saudi National. I referenced the Saudi National in the article Bad Moon Rising, but Abdul Rahman al-Harbi, folks, do you know who this guy is? Does this name ring a bell? If it doesn't, it should, because he was in Boston at the marathon, at the finish line. Abdul Rahman al-Harbi. Okay, folks, please remember this name. Glenn Beck and Alex Jones talked about him at great length, and Glenn Beck did a fantastic job, as did Alex Jones, in going through all of the aspects of this al-Harbi. This is a Saudi national. If you want to talk about bending over and grabbing your ankles, here's a perfect example. And here's a perfect example of Napolitano, her smugness. You're killing me over here. Okay, whatever you're doing with your headset, you're killing me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
Okay. al-Harbi is a perfect example of the lies and the treachery and the treason and the sedition that we are facing under this Obama regime, and every single and solitary congressman and senator that are serving this great republic. You see, al-Harbi is a Saudi national that was admitted to the United States under a special advisory option. He was admitted, let me check my notes. I think he was admitted back on last year sometime in August to attend Findlay University in Findlay, Ohio. The only problem is this: he never attended. He never enrolled. Okay, and although he was admitted to the United States under this special advisory option, which, by the way, is reserved for dignitaries and for VIPs, he was never vetted, and lo and behold, he happens to be listed as armed and dangerous, and one of the most dangerous listed by the counterterrorism agencies as at the highest terrorist level. He has got a special status as being one of the most dangerous terrorists walking the face of the earth, and he was at the Boston Marathon finish line. But he was a Saudi national. Remember, at 1:16 p.m. on Wednesday, the bombing happened on Monday. Remember, at 1:16 p.m. on Wednesday, John King from CNN, he came out and said, and I quote, "A dark-skinned male has been arrested." This according to 2 FBI sources. A dark-skinned male is in custody. Well, you see, that reference was made to Abdul Rahman al-Harbi. And al-Harbi was in the hospital with wounds from the explosion, consistent with being in close proximity to the materials used to make or the bomb itself. And here's what happened to Mr. al-Harbi. He was taken to the hospital and then placed under guard, in case you haven't heard about this, and placed under guard and then described as a person of interest and then described as being under arrest. All right, this is what's going on. Meanwhile, it took the FBI 9 hours to search his apartment. Do you remember hearing about this, folks? 9 hours. The FBI searched his apartment.
I think we said that they were doing the packing for him.
Exactly, that's what it was. But see, this Mr. al-Harbi with the smug smile on his face in the hotel, or in the hotel room, might have been a hotel room, the hospital room, being treated by an unending line of dignitaries from Michelle Obama, perhaps, although she did, in all fairness, visit others. Whether she visited al-Harbi is a matter of speculation, but informed speculation nonetheless. You see, Mr. al-Harbi, according to all of the information we have, was one of the prime suspects in this bombing. Why is this important? Why am I talking about this right now? Well, and once again, if you want to access this information or look at this information, Glenn Beck has it, but he was listed under Section 212.3b, Section A, or Subsection A, Subsection 3, Subsection B, Subsection I, Subsection II. Okay. And he had one prior event in his event file. That number is 1648067. Not like you're going to really remember these, but here's the deal. Remember the bomb threat? Remember the schedule? Remember the FBI? They were going to do a news conference at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock on Wednesday. And suddenly, or it might have been 5:30, but suddenly, reportedly, a bomb threat was called into the venue to which they were going to do that press conference. And the press was cleared, and everyone was cleared away out of that courthouse. I believe it was a courthouse that they were going to do this press conference. It never happened. Why? Well, you see, even though al-Harbi was in custody or under guard at the hospital, even though 2 FBI sources stated that he was under arrest, even though he was classified as one of the most dangerous terrorists to walk the planet, even though he was enrolled or in the country to be enrolled at Findlay University but wasn't, the government accessed his file at 4:35 p.m. on Tuesday after, of course, what? After this meeting between John Kerry and the Saudi foreign minister, Saad al-Faisal. Suddenly, after this meeting, which these meetings are usually open to the press, this meeting, of course, was closed to the press. Al-Harbi, obviously, in my view anyway, was the subject of that meeting, that closed-door meeting between the stellar John Kerry and the equally stellar Saudi foreign minister Saad al-Faisal, of course. What happened? Well, we don't know, except that suddenly Mr. al-Harbi became a person of interest, or was transformed from a person of interest to a dignitary once again, even though everything pointed to his potential involvement at the Boston Marathon bombing. You see, people dismiss quickly the Saudi influence, the Saudi cooperational aspects of the bombing. They're looking at these 2 brothers. And by the way, folks, as an aside, we are doing Joe and I are doing a lot of research on this, and Marianne, thank you so much for all of you sent. I mean, you're a blessing. People have been sending us data, information. Our sources have been giving us information. But you see, you've got to ask who benefits. You've got to ask who benefits in this. Of course, there are a number of things with this Boston bombing, but let me just finish with Al Harby. Al Harby, of course, was protected by the Saudis, and not only protected by the Saudis, but he was protected by members of our own government, Janet Napolitano, John Kerry, Michelle Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, and other higher government officials. You had every single high senior official within our government protecting this Abdul Rahman Al Harbi. Now, how would you feel if it was your 8-year-old son that was blown to bits by a bomb, and you found out, and I'm not saying this is the case, but you found out that this Al Harbi had a hand in this? How would you feel if you lost a loved one and to a bombing, and our government was waxing his Bentley and probably polishing something else, but waxing his Bentley at the very least? How would you feel? I'd be damned mad, angry, and I'm angry too right now. But it would be nothing like I would be if I found out that this Al Harbi was part and parcel or part of the conspiracy behind that bombing. What was he doing there? Are you telling me that we've got multi-million-dollar facial recognition software, and this Al Harbi could be at the finish line, and no one grabbed him on this 212-3B terrorist status? Explain that to me. I want to know. Someone explain this to me. Are you telling me that we had the best possible facial recognition software that money can buy everywhere, or at every important location of that marathon? And these two brothers, the ones identified as being the perpetrators of this bombing, are you telling me that we did not know their identities at the time? Of course we did. We most certainly did. You know why? Because the FBI, the older brother, was an operational asset for multiple intelligence agencies, and multiple intelligence agencies were at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. You don't think that we deserved, you don't think that we are allowed to ask questions and to say, wait a minute, there's something wrong here with this picture. Yet you're going to make fun of us for asking questions, asking legitimate questions. God forbid one of my family members gets hurt by something like this. I mean, you better watch out. And I'll tell you something else. There's a woman out there that has my admiration. Her name is Susan Price, priceforjustice.com, by the way. Susan Price. Her son in Afghanistan was executed. Executed. He was an operational asset for the CIA. And say what you will. And I understand the arguments on both sides. But her son was executed in Afghanistan. By the way, folks, and I should slip this in, through the good graces of Susan Price and also Randy Umberger, Pastor Umberger from the church in Apex, North Carolina, a suburb of Raleigh, it would appear that we're going to appear with Susan Price the weekend of June 7th, 8th, and 9th, or 8th and 9th, whatever that might be. We're going to have the... We've been humbly invited to speak with Susan, to compliment and support her in Raleigh, North Carolina, or outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, that weekend. That would be June 8th and 9th, I believe. And we'll put up on our website more information about this if you're interested in attending and hearing Susan Price talk, and maybe we'll say a few words and meeting us and meeting Susan Price. And you're in that area, certainly. It doesn't cost anything. It would be a good thing to attend and listen. But that said, look, we had the best facial recognition software money can buy. Do you think that we could have at least stopped this? Joe, I'm going to ask you. Do you think, with everything you know right now, all of the studying you've done, all of the research, all of the investigation, you've been 8 years as an investigator under my tutelage. What? Do you think we got to stop this?
No. Not when the government's carrying out these attacks, and at the same time they're using this as justification to take our liberties. Not with the majority of the American public not even knowing how to tie their own shoelaces, let alone understanding what time period in life they're living in, biblically speaking, let alone what's happening around them to their own country. Their lack of ability to discern when tyranny is about to come in and murder them and their families won't even be activated now, as we're seeing it about to unfold. These people have no idea. So no, can we stop this? No. Can we turn it around a little bit? Can we save some people along the way? Yes. Is it possible to delay it? Yes. Can we stop it? No.
It's a good answer. Yeah, look, I don't think we're going to stop what's coming. I think we can mitigate our own personal damages, and this is what we're here for. In part, and this is why I ask everyone every show, what have you done to prepare, even if it's the smallest little detail, what have you done to prepare for what's coming? You know, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I mean, at least I don't. I've asked that question. Well, you know, what's it going to be? The economic collapse, the war, the social and societal unrest, and of course I get yes, 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 and yes. And I believe that to be true, along with some natural calamities as well. But so what are we preparing for? We are preparing for survival, both practical survival and spiritual survival. And I know, Joe, you're all about spiritual survival, as am I. In practical survival, we both are. And we have to be our head. And see, the thing is we have to have our heads correct, or the spiritual aspect of our lives correct, in order to survive. And I think God mandates us to survive and help others to survive. Folks, don't think that you're going to crawl underneath in a nice warm bed, pull the covers over your head, and because your electricity is out, you're going to be watching TV, cable TV in the dark. I mean, it ain't happening. That was a joke, but you get what I'm saying. You were meant to be, everyone listening to this broadcast, you are here at this very moment in time, not to play golf, not to play some video game, not to. You're here for a specific purpose. God put you here because, and God plugged you into this program for a specific reason, because you could be doing a gazillion other things other than listening to us. But God put you here for a reason. You have to live up to that reason. You've got to, first of all, you've got to identify what it is. You've got to ask, you've got to hit your knees. And if you're physically unable to do so, whatever you do, just pray and ask God why you are here. What your position is, what position you're supposed to play, what zone you're supposed to play, what point you're supposed, and people that are on point, on the tip of the spear. And I'd like to include us in that grouping of people. But we need backup. We need support. We need people behind us. We need people beside us. We can't man that point all day long, 24/7, and months and years, and Steve Quayle and such. Okay, we need backup, and that's the thing too. Your spirit, your discernment. What are you here for? Is it to educate? If you touch one person, if you get that one person and lead that one person to God, is that what your life is all about? And that one person leads maybe 10,000 others? How are you going to be looked at in the final analysis when the book of life is opened and your life is judged and you're judged before the Almighty? This is what it's all about. Are you up to the fight? Are you up to fighting the Illuminati, this Luciferian, this satanic mindset, this subculture of perversion that has overtaken our country? Are you up to that fight? I hope you are. Gird your loins. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds good. Look, put the armor of God on. play your position, and let's hit the ground running. We know how the game ends. We know how this story ends. It ends in the defeat of these perverse little pukes, these worms that are satanic, these satanic entities which we're fighting. We know we will be victorious, but it's not going to be a smooth sailing. It's going to be a very turbulent plane ride. And imagine yourself, a good friend of mine told me this. I mean, just imagine yourself in a plane, and that plane is going down. It's going to land, baby. I mean, you're in a plane. That plane is going to land. And at the very least, it's going to be a really hard landing. What do you do? Do you grab the person next to you? Do you grab that person's hand next to you? What's your job aboard that plane? It's not to scream and yell and shout and cover your head and, it's not to do that. You've got to fulfill your appointed divine purpose in life. And who's talking about this? Why aren't the people that get paid the big bucks talking about surviving the coming economic collapse? They don't even want to recognize the fact that we've got an economic collapse coming. It's insane. I happen to tune into that. What is that Kramer guy on MSNBC?
Jim Cramer.
Yeah. I mean, what's with all anyone in the stock market today? Are you out of your mind? That's all high frequency trading. Look, protect your assets. And I'm going off now on things, and I think Joe's enjoying the break because he had a rough radio day today, very full radio day. But look, we all have to know it's coming. Know it's coming. We have to protect ourselves from what we're about to experience. We've got to really take care of not only ourselves, our family, our loved ones. And by the way, in your preparations, folks, don't forget your pets. Don't forget your furry friends. Wow. All right. So
we're going to be taking calls in the third hour, which is coming up in about 24 minutes at 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. Get on hold if you want to join the show. I'm going to hit a few pieces of news. This from the 25th of April. Army orders removal of Bible references from military scopes. The U.S. Army is ordering that references to Bible verses that were etched into rifle scopes sold to the military be removed. Troops at Alaska's Fort Wainwright near Fairbanks were told to remove the Bible references which the company manufacturing the scopes engraved next to the serial numbers. The two verses referenced etched into the scopes are John 8:12 and 2 Corinthians 4:6. Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have light of life. Reads the scripture from the Gospel of John. The verse from the Apostle Paul's second epistle to the Corinthians reads, For God, who said, Let light shine out of darkness, made his light shine in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of God's glory displayed in the face of Christ.
So wait a minute. They have all this etched in the barrel of the rifle?
The company, they have these etched in the outer part of the rifle scopes.
Oh, I see.
So it says a company contracted to the manufacturing the scopes for the military is Trigicon, Trigicon, based in Michigan. The company first came under fire for the practice in 2010 when an atheist group and even Muslims complained about the references on the scopes. General David Petraeus, who was overseeing U.S. military operations in Afghanistan and Iraq at the time, called the longtime tradition of the company disturbing and a serious concern to me and other commanders in Iraq and Afghanistan. A spokesman for the Pentagon added at the time, it is not the policy of the Department of Defense to put religious references of any kind on its equipment. The Christian News Network recalled that at the time of the original controversy, Defense Department officials stated that they were concerned the scopes would be seen as a type of crusade against other religions, such as Islam. Some groups worried that the enemy combatants might get the idea that they were being purposefully targeted with Jesus rifles. Anyway, the company decided to stop making the scopes with the Bible references on them. And this is just another small piece of information in what is a all-out, full-blown assault on the Christian religion. And we opened up the show and read earlier about the Christian, the Pentagon is using an anti-Christian extremist for their religious tolerance policy, wherein this guy says, this guy being, where is this, his name, Mickey Weinstein, said that Christians are monsters, religious oppressors, unconstitutional carpetbaggers, and bigots.
I'm going to try to call him tomorrow and arrange an interview with him. Seriously.
There's another paragraph he wrote that I can't even try to read, but it goes on to say, this article goes on to say, God help us now when someone with such hatred of conservative Christians, literally tens of millions of Americans, who says sharing this gospel is spiritual rape, is helping develop policies for how to deal with Christians in the military. Anyway.
One story. Are you done with that? I didn't mean to cut you off. One story I want to get into before the top of the hour is this. We talked about this on Pastor Paul Begley's show when we were on today. Folks, have you heard about this? The World Trade Center, the new World Trade Center now. The Spire.
Freedom Tower?
Is that what it's called? It's not the Freedom Tower anymore. That name has been scrubbed. Folks, wrap your minds around this collectively, individually. Think about this. And think about how in your face this is. And to those people who say the Illuminati, this power, invisible power, doesn't exist, think about this. Or even this, even better. If you doubt the divine touching, the divine intervention and satanic intervention in the battle between good and evil, if you doubt that, listen to this. Today, they had the people, the World Trade Center people, were going to put this spire cap up on top of the World Trade Center, the newly built World Trade Center. Folks, making it 1,776 feet tall. Okay? Think about that. 1776. That's how tall the building will be with the spire cap. Now, One World Trade Center, which it's now named, is, of course, already New York's tallest building. So when the last pieces of its spire eventually rise to the roof, the 104-floor skyscraper that replaces the Twin Towers will be just feet from becoming the highest building in the Western Hemisphere. But you see, officials, this according to the official narrative now, the official line, officials hoped that this would take place today, April 29th, 2013. But guess what? They had to suspend the operation because of weather, high winds. See, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey said the spire pieces and the steel beacon will be lifted onto the building, or we're going to be lifted on the building to once again to make it that impressive number of 1776 feet. Now, here's where we're coming from. I'm coming from, and Joe's coming from. I think he's on board with this possibility. 1776 shows up. Obviously, 1776 was the year of independence for the United States. 1776 is a very important number to the Illuminati. Well, why? Well, when was the Illuminati officially founded? May 1st, 1776. Here's my guess. Here's our guess as Joe and I were talking about this. You want to know when this capstone, this cap on the World Trade Center is going to be put up there on top of this building, making it the full 1,776 feet?
October 21st, 2071. No, May 1st.
Right.
Just a few days from today.
Now, that's our guess. But how in your face? And I'm asking you, ladies and
What's
gentlemen.
wrong with a building being 1,776 feet? Okay, this building that was knocked down, that the Jonathan Cahn's Harbinger book, all the references to Isaiah, what was it, chapter 2, verse 9, I think, or chapter 9, verse 2, where we will rebuild. Obama etching it into the steel beam, the replanting of the trees, all the destruction that the politicians were ignoring, saying, we're not going to repent, we're going to rebuild. This being 776 feet tall, the Illuminati being founded on May 1st, 1776. Well, today it was supposed to go up as and put on top of the Trade Center to make it that 1776 feet, and it be pushed back because of weather. As we were doing the show on Pastor Begley today, it comes out that they're going to postpone this because of weather. It will be interesting to see when they put it up. And what is the symbolism behind this? What are they trying to convey by doing this?
Well, I think people can really use their gray matter and understand that this is a message to those in the know. This is the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and saying, hey, this is a message that the Illuminati, the Satanists, the people that the power brokers, the global elite, the very people who are going to destroy us from within, this is our way of saying we're still in control. And you might think that's really a ridiculous statement. You might think, oh man, Joe and Doug, they've lost their way and they're just a couple of lunatics. But when you think about it, look at the way Washington, D.C. is laid out. Look at the obelisk there. Look at the recent swearing in of Obama facing the obelisk. What does that represent in and of itself? It's signaling, it's telegraphing certain messages that the Illuminati are in control. Just as this most recent event with the One World Trade Center, by the way, overlooking the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island. And of course, the Statue of Liberty, folks, don't think for one moment that the Statue of Liberty is free of controversy when it comes to the Illuminati. That's a different program. That's a whole program by itself. But the fact of the matter is the Statue of Liberty plays an important role in the power behind the power brokers. The symbolism, and you know, I will never go to Washington, D.C. again and look at the Washington Monument the same way, or New York City and look at the One World Trade Center the same way again, knowing the symbolism behind it. And folks, if you haven't read The Harbinger, if you have, and I look, I'm not. It's not about the messenger, it's about the message. Jonathan Cahn is the author of The Harbinger. Some have elevated him to a prophet-like status. No, he's just bringing out the information that's important for people to understand. Instead of repenting as a nation for our sins, instead of acknowledging God and everything that we've done as a nation. That's not to say we shouldn't take proactive measures to make sure that didn't happen again. But our hubris in the face of this destruction is biblical, is downright biblical. the taking of the hewn stone from upstate New York and taking it down to ground zero, of course, in New York City, and replacing that. And the I-beam, as you mentioned, Joe. And the only thing that stopped, by the way, the destruction of the church at ground zero was a tree, and that tree, of course, was what? A sycamore tree. And it was replaced by a conifer tree, just as it took place centuries and centuries, millennia ago in Israel. We are following the exact footsteps of Israel as a nation, and we are going to really, and I just find it interesting too, if you read the Harbinger and go through the different parallels in Scripture and parallels in history, you'll see that there is a divine hand here and there's a satanic hand here, and the two are dueling each other. And I think it's important for us to understand at this moment in history that wow, I mean, it's hard for me to envision, and I know people who just blow this off like it's just some sort of fairy tale. But to me, it's hard for me to envision those people not being able to acknowledge the hand of God in all of this and getting the message. And isn't it interesting how Daschle, and I don't have my notes in front of me about the Harbinger, but if you go through step by step, the very leaders at the time, right after 9/11, picking out verses that related to the corresponding events in Israel that happened millennia before with the temple in Jerusalem and such. So I guess what we're saying here, look at this. Our view now is watch for this spire, and maybe it won't happen. I don't know. I don't know, but my guess is May 1st, just to commemorate the actual birthday of the Illuminati. That's when it'll happen, and that's not too far off. What is that, Joe? Thursday, Wednesday, something like that? Actually, it'll be Wednesday. So, maybe the winds will stop blowing by then. But as of today, they had to scrub that little mission, and we'll see what happens. So if it happens on May 1st, you heard it here. Well, actually, you heard it on Paul Begley's show first, and here on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report second.
In other news today, this from the New York Times, tainted water poses new risk at Japan reactor. 2 years after the triple meltdown that grew into the world's second worst nuclear disaster, according to the New York Times here, the second worst, only to Chernobyl. Goes on to say that Fukushima power plant is faced with a new crisis, a flood of highly radioactive wastewater that workers are struggling to contain. Groundwater is pouring into the plant's ravaged reactor buildings at a rate of almost 75 gallons a minute. It is becoming highly contaminating there before being pumped back out into sea. And it goes on to say a small army of workers have struggled to contain the continuous flow of radioactive wastewater, relying on hulking gray silver storage tanks sprawling over 42 acres of parking lots and lawns. The tanks hold the equivalent of 112 Olympic-sized pools. But even they are not enough to handle the tons of strontium-laced water at the plant, a reflection of the scale of the 2011 disaster, and the critics' view, ad hoc decision-making by the company that runs the plant and regulators who oversee it, a sign of the sheer size of the problem. An operator of the plant at Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEMCO, plans to chop down a small forest in the southern edge to make room for hundreds of more tanks, a task that will become urgent when underground pits built to handle the overflow sprang leaks in recent weeks. To make a long story short, folks, the Fukushima reactors continue to pump radiation out into the air. They continue to contaminate the seawater all around the Pacific, and now pretty much have engulfed in the northern hemisphere in a new category of radiation that is deadly to all of us. This is something we should be concerned about, yes, but How concerned should we be when it happens on U.S. soil? I have an audio here I uploaded about a California plant that is undergoing some problems. And did I upload this audio clip? I don't think I did. But there is a California plant that in San Diego is going to be restarted, and fears of it being restarted because of the terrible infrastructure and shape in which the plant was left in. And this speaks to a lot of the infrastructure of nuclear plants around America. Something we talked about last week on our show is if something were to happen, like we'll say an EMP or even a temporary shutdown of electric capabilities or electronic capabilities, do you know how much trouble most of America would be in, as most of America lives close to reactors? These reactors are old, 60, 70 plus years, built by the same designs as Fukushima was built. Obviously, I'm not saying that a plant somewhere in the Midwest should be concerned with a tsunami. But what about all the radioactive waste all of our American plants have been storing? Where are they storing their contaminated spent fuel and spent fuel rods? And what is stopping the leaks from coming, all across America? We see sinkholes swallowing up cars, people, roads, highways. We see, as the earth is going through changes, earthquakes are happening and popping up all across different places in the U.S. and in familiar places in the U.S., being the New Madrid fault line. There have been earthquakes rapidly increasing in the last couple of years. How long before we see a Fukushima-type situation in the United States? One that is left untreated. And even going back to Fukushima, how much damage has Fukushima done to America, to the Northern Hemisphere, to the world? How many things, plants, animals, people, will be dead as a result of the radiation from Fukushima? Will it ever be contained? Do they even care anymore about it? Does anybody even care anymore about it? Or is there so much going on that there's not time to care about Fukushima? It's pretty frightening when you look and see 2.5 years ago this radioactive plant blowing up, and it's still not fixed. There are major problems with our world. And the only way that it seems we can really solve anything is to solve our own problems in our own lives, our own spiritual problems, our own flesh problems that we have. So much around us is crumbling. Infrastructure, countries, currencies, even people, as they become more suicidal, fear, anger, anxiety, gripping them, driving them to do things they wouldn't do, driving them to places they wouldn't be.
I think we saw that recent WorldNet Daily article where Drudge linked to it, where people are snapping at record levels. Well, you can only keep pressure on a rubber band so long before it snaps, and I'd like to say too, this is why when we broadcast, a big portion of our program is broadcasting through, providing news through the prism of the biblical aspects of things, through biblical prophecy, through the promises of God. Look, if you looked at all of the news just the way it is, without that spiritual element, my goodness, wouldn't you just potentially snap? Of course you could. So that said, I think that we have to put things in perspective. And,
I mean, there's an obvious human condition we're seeing here, not just in America, but across the world. People are not caring about one another. They're not caring about their environment. They're not caring about their areas, their animals, their anything, unless it's self-serving. People don't care about other people who are paid to care about other people, like the politicians. Yet we see the veterans, the people who are supposed to be our protectors, who are supposed to be fighting for the freedoms of this nation, are brought down to the lowest level when they return home, given a disease, stripped of their gun rights.
Absolutely, and it's terrible. And but once again, we've got to put it in the perspective of, when we look at this, folks, do not, and we're instructed not to lose hope. We're instructed to have faith and to reinforce ourselves with the blessings of God, and to understand that God is in control. We do know how this ends, but that doesn't get us off the hook. We still have to fight.
We have responsibilities. We have our own.
That's right.
Things we need to take care of, responsibilities we need to take care of, because to whom much is given, much is required, as the scriptures say. And we've been given a lot, even though a lot we take for granted.
Exactly. And folks, I want to say this past 2 hours has been sponsored by our good friends at AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com. That's AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com. I ask you every day, what steps have you taken to prepare? Do you have enough food to last for 3 months, for 90 days? Do you have enough stored water for that same amount of time for 90 days? How about an emergency survival kit? Well, folks, I now have a solution to all of these questions and concerns. Just call our friends at American Survival Wholesale, 818-720-0759. That's 818-720-0759. Or better yet, go to their website. That's AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com. Tell them that Doug and Joe sent you the Hagmann and Hagmann report. This is where you heard about it. And you'll receive a full-size King James Bible in just a great waterproof case. I'm going to tell you, quality, great stuff. Free with every survival kit or purchases over $199. Don't put this off, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have a lot of time, and they have products that'll work with any budget. Again, that's AmericanSurvivalWholesale.com. You can also email them, and this is pretty cool. If you've got questions, this is the super secret Hagmann and Hagmann email direct to the people, and these are great people. Super secret email. You ready for this? bugoutamerica@usa.com. That's bugoutamerica@usa.com. But don't forget to tell them Joe and Doug sent you. Also, a couple of other things. Check out the May specials of Freeze Dry Guy. Just click on the link on our upper or on our website, front page of our website, to Freeze Dry Guy Foods. And don't forget our great friends at Granlund Firearms. GranlundFirearms.com. They have just an incredible inventory of personal defense weapons. Even if you're not in Canada, you can get them here in the States. Just go to a federal firearms licensed dealer to take care of that. They've got all sorts of survival gear. And if you like reading about hunting and exploits, environment, outside exploits, Carl Granlund wrote a great book, Treed by the River. I read it when I was sick one time, and I'm going back through just reading different stories because it's really entertaining. Treed by the River. So that's GranlundFirearms.com. Tell them Doug and Joe Hagmann sent you. Visit our sponsors. These are people, real people, salt of the earth people, every one of them. They're out there to help you, and they're friends of ours. And I got to tell you, man, we don't talk. Look, we do not. Anyone we talk with, endorse like this, we know personally, and we have tried their products, seen their products, touched their products. We know them personally, professionally, whatever. So we're not, we know of what we speak, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You've been listening to the Hagmann Hagmann Report this 29th day of April 2013. Thanks for putting up with my rants today. And of course, we're going to be right back after these messages. Stay with us. And folks, Hagmann and Hagmann Report, HomelandSecurityUS.com and CanadaFreePress.com. Check out the new article there. Pass it on.
Hi, folks. Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eileen Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our third and final hour this Monday, April 29th edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. 661-244-9839 is the phone number. We're going to be going to the phones this third hour and hitting on some last pieces of news. Today, there were missiles fired at a Russian passenger jet flying over Syria. There are reports that 2 missiles were fired at these Russian planes, or at a Russian plane with carrying at least 159 passengers over Syrian territory. Russian officials admit the jet faced danger, but are not talking of a targeted attack. This, I'm reading from the Intel Hub. There was also an article on RT. The news broke on Monday as Interfax, citing an informed source in Moscow, reported that a Russian passenger plane was attacked. Syrian officials informed us that Monday morning an unidentified force launched 2 ground-to-air missiles, which exploded in the air very close to civilian aircraft belonging to a Russian airline, the source told the Russian agency. Now, that's as much as I'm going to read of the article. I wonder where these weapons came from that were used to launch against this Russian passenger jet. And if they didn't come from the funding of lethal and non-lethal aid of the United States to Al-Qaeda in Syria. Either way, more confusion and chaos in the area as reports of chemical weapons, unconfirmed, have talks of invasion, at least here on the American side, the American neocon side, with John McCain and Lindsey Graham pushing for an invasion of Syria with up to 500,000 ground troops. This is the 3rd year of Syria's civil war, which has claimed over 70,000 lives, they guess, but this war would not have continued as long as it has without the support of the United States backing Al-Qaeda in the region.
Of course. Look, we're talking about Syria now, right? Thank you. I was still, by the way, folks, that Russian airliner, you know what this reminds me of? Do you remember, what was it? I'll tell you in a second here. The shoot down of Korean airliner Flight 007. Korean Airlines Flight 007 on September 1st, 1983 by Russia. 269 passengers and crew were killed, including sitting member of Congress Lawrence McDonald. Congressman Lawrence McDonald was aboard that aircraft. Do you remember that? That was September 1st, 1983. And that was taken down by the Soviet Union by a missile. The airliner reportedly went off course. But, when I heard about this today, I just couldn't help but think about that Korean airliner flight that went down. I'm suspicious by nature. There's something about this that's just not right, but this all ties to Syria. It all ties to Syria. We are being dragged into this, or we are being thrust forward into Syria by the globalists, by the Obama agenda, by the Saudis. Blood will be shed. American blood will be shed on the ground in Syria. So this is what it's all about. Putin has warned us. Yet we continue with our pathway to World War III. Now, we're going to be taking your calls at 661-244-9839, but I just want to say this. We are facing a war in the Middle East that's going to center on Syria that will make every conflict over the last half century look tame by comparison, that will make Iraq and Afghanistan look like just walks in the park. And don't forget, too, we went into the first Gulf War on a lie that babies were taking out of incubators. It was a war over oil. It was a war over Kuwait. Who ran and what is Kuwait? Kuwait is nothing but an extension of Saudi Arabia. And of course, we baited Saddam Hussein into that. If you understand it, we went into the first Gulf War on a lie. Yet I was one of the very people who cheered and said, "Rah, rah, rah! Go get them! Let's kill the people! Let's bomb the heck out of them!" Yeah, that was me. And then you start to develop these questions, and all of a sudden things aren't what they appear to be. And the second Gulf War comes around, and of course, same. I mean, it goes on and on. Every single war conflict that has gone on, really over the last 100 years, has been based on a lie. And the sooner that you, ladies and gentlemen, and realize this, the depth and the depravity behind this, and the fact that these globalist, satanic, Luciferian entities are behind getting us into this war, and the deception that is coming, we are going to be deceived like no other time in history. And it's coming, and it's coming quickly. Get ready for it. It's coming.
Let's go to the phones.
Let's do it.
All right. Area code 615. We're coming to you first. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
What's up, buddy? You remember me entertaining you last Monday when your dad was celebrating his birthday?
Yeah.
What'd I miss?
Yeah, man. All right, well, anyway, today I saw a sticker on campus. I go to a school, it's one of the biggest in Tennessee, but it's a pretty liberal campus, and it said freedom for all religions. And I was like, oh, okay, freedom for all of religion. I was like, that sounds good. And then I went and looked underneath it, and it actually said Islamic Center of Murfreesboro, and it has a website. But they put a mosque in this town a while back, and I talked to some people at church, like, sorry about that, some youth ministers or something, and they were saying, this is at a mega church, by the way, they were just saying that they tried to investigate that place, the mosque, and they could never find out where the funding came from. So I thought that was pretty creepy. Just, you know how the Obama administration has had more influx of Muslims or immigration of Muslims into the country than any other administration. And I remember you guys talking about how that's Islam, radical Islam, is a religion of hate. So I didn't know what you guys had to think about that.
Well, all right. In the United States right now, as I speak, there are 75,000 students here on student visas, if you will, from hostile Muslim countries. Okay, now think about that. 75,000 students are in the United States from hostile Muslim countries. 15,000 of those 75,000 are not where they're supposed to be. In other words, they're missing. That's what I think about this. I think that we have opened our doors, that America is being deliberately balkanized. Of course, we're being flooded by through our southern border by other than Mexicans. We're being flooded. Our system is being overrun by these students from other countries, which include, like I said, 75,000 from hostile Muslim countries. This is no accident. And the fact is, every mosque in this country, in some way, shape, or form, is preaching or advocating or facilitating some sort of seditious activity in some fashion against the constitutional aspects of this republic. Now, I'm being very careful with my wording here. You have to understand, Sharia or Sharia law in the Islamic religion, it cannot peaceably coexist with democracy, or I should say with the constitutional law of a representative republic. So this is by design to gradually erode and destroy this country from within. The Muslims are being used as a tool of the globalists. They're being used by design to destroy this country. Some know it, some don't, but that's the bottom line.
Yeah, man. All right, well, hang on a second. I got to bring up another point. Let's see. I was just watching Fox News while you guys were talking earlier, and I thought this was really funny. The top recipients of U.S. foreign aid for 2012, and it's from the Congressional Research Service. And we've either been at war or currently at war with the top five, so, or almost all the top five. Besides, number one is Israel with $3.1 billion. Then in second is Afghanistan with $2.3 billion. After that is Pakistan with $2.1 billion. Then Iraq with $1.7 billion. And the fifth is Egypt with $1.6 billion. And after that is just Jordan, Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Tanzania, and those are all 500 million and 600 million. So it's not even in comparison to the top five that we're funding. And all those countries, we have either Al Qaeda or Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood. So I just thought that was interesting. I don't know if you guys had a comment about that.
Yeah, I do. It is the same old of the same old. We see. Our tax dollars, our money that could be, if it's going to be given away, could be done so in a much more responsible fashion to really help people. And in seeing which nations you just listed off, I'm wondering what that money is really going for. Is it the money going to Afghanistan to help the opium production stay at the level it's at? Is the money going to, Iraq to to continue nation building as they are going through turmoil and unrest, and that is increasing as the days go on? Where is this money going, and why so much of it?
Well, exactly. Anything else, caller, before we cut you loose?
Yeah, man. I got a few other points from the other night that I jotted down. Oh yeah, you guys played that clip of Rand Paul earlier. Did you guys hear about him flip-flopping on the drone policy? And I was just going to say, who do we really have left for 2016 as a hope? Would you say Ted Cruz would be a good candidate if he kept coming along? Or I don't know if you guys have any comments about that.
I'm writing in Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to be running against Obama for his third term in 2016. No, seriously. Look, on the horizon, I don't know of any political leader that has not been compromised in one way, shape, or form. You look at these people that these Republicans trot out, like Marco Rubio. I mean, are you serious? Is this the best we can do? Apparently, it must be, because there's no political, or there's no
Political solution to a spiritual problem. Right.
Exactly. I think
if
by
we're even
2016, we're going to be twisted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
Right.
I'm not even sure if I can even answer that question. And yeah, Rand
Well,
Paul.
all right. Well,
Look, Rand
go
Paul
ahead.
is. I mean, Rand Paul was talking about, and I heard his take on the drones. I understand what he's saying. However, I don't necessarily agree with it because where's the consistency?
Who stands 13 hours filibustering a bill on drones just to turn around and say it's the same tool as a police officer's gun, basically, in a regular crime?
Yeah, I've got a problem with the consistency behind this. If you're going to be consistent, or if you're going to make a point, then be consistent throughout the entirety of your agenda. But I don't know.
Anything else, caller, before we
that.
let go?
And then yeah, I'm sorry, man. I got so many points. May 1st, you guys are saying, Illuminati Day, but just on a positive note, May 2nd is actually National Prayer Day, I saw, so that's pretty good. And then, have you seen, there's this comedy coming out, just saw this the other day, it's called This Is the End, and it's a comedy making an apocalypse seem like a joke, or something that would be, fun or funny. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but if not, go YouTube, This Is the End, and go look at that trailer. End. Yeah, man, it's just crazy. Like, unless you have a different interpretation, but check that out before the end of the show. And then that guy Michael the other night was really informative, man. You guys should have him on, more often. Or I think teaming up is a great idea. I know I've brought that up so many times, but I just think that there's so many voices out there. But I understand everyone being separate is good too. But also of the Weinstein thing earlier, saying that Dobson and his followers of Christianity are extremists or hate groups. If you guys, I know you've probably heard some of his family programs, Focus on the Family programs. I mean, they're really great and very helpful for young Christian families seeking, spiritual guidance. So, I mean, it's good to get your guidance from multiple different sources, but I'm just saying, I've never really heard him say anything too crazy. I don't know what you guys had to say about that one. Or the past point or two I've read up.
What was the name of the guy you were just referring to?
Well, he was talking about Weinstein. Are you talking about Weinstein?
Weinstein and Dobson. Yeah, at the beginning of the show.
Right.
You remember, did you say they were demonizing James Dobson?
Right. No, I remember. Oh, absolutely do I remember. I think you might be mixing up the foundations or the different agencies.
Weinstein's the one who came out and said how Christianity and Christians are monsters, and but who he was criticizing.
Weinstein was talking about Dr. James Dobson, the founder of Focus on the Family. Now, Dobson, Focus on the Family, exactly right. I believe in James Dobson. However, he was saying that Dobson is illustrative of the extremist, militant nature of these virulently homophobic organizations, rhetorically charged propaganda. So Weinstein was cutting up Dobson. But you're right. Focus on the Family appears, from what I've seen, from what little I've seen, appears to be a good, solid Christian foundation. Now, so that's where that. Unless I'm confused, I mean, that's how that plays out.
No, you got it right.
That's how I saw it. Okay.
All right, well, we're going to move on.
One last point. Go ahead.
Have a good one, man. Good luck on Blog Talk.
All right, man.
Thanks for the call, and I look forward to hearing from you again.
Interesting as always. You know what? I do remember. I remember this caller.
So. Yeah, he called in when you were out.
Yeah. I did hear
and
that.
It was a good call. No, and he's got his points together. He could probably stay on for a whole hour or two going through stuff we missed and went over. Moving on here, 760 area code. We're coming to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Is that me?
That's you.
That is you.
Oh, that's me. Okay, you're probably not going to like what I'm going to say. You just talking about the calling Christians monsters. What was the name of that group?
This was
Weinstein.
Mickey Weinstein, the founder of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, MRFF.
Okay. And they were working together with the Southern Poverty Law Center?
With the Pentagon.
He's a consultant for the Pentagon. He wrote a column that appeared in the Huffington Post. I'm not sure of his affiliation with the. Well, Weinstein did say that the Southern Poverty Law Center correctly labels Christians as hate groups. All of them as hate groups. So.
Well, you got the ADL, you got the Southern Poverty Law Center, ACLU, AIPAC, and this guy's probably associated with all of them. Those are all run by Zionist Jews, international Jewry. Here you guys are saying it's a Saudi global agenda. The real enemies are the Zionist Jews, okay?
Wait.
About all the monies that we give money to.
What do you mean by
all the
Zionist
countries?
Jews? What do you mean by Zionist Jews? Well,
International Jewry.
Okay.
International Jewry. They bamboozled the churches. Most of the churches in this country are 501c3, and they support Israel, the country of Israel. That's not the true Israelites. The real true Israelites are still spread out throughout the world. And I
agree with you to some degree.
Saying and it's a Saudi globalist agenda. It's the Jewry they're the ones that run the film industry. They run the banks. They run the pharma. All the major corporations are run by Jews.
Are you just some kind of robot that just parrots what
Come
you hear? I mean, no. I want to ask you something. Who has the historical and religious claim to the land currently occupied by Israel? Answer me that question. Who has the historical...
It's not the ones that you think it is. It's not. Those are not even real Jews that are over there in Israel. They're from Khazar originally. They're Karzasian Jews. But Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they didn't call themselves Jews. They would call Israelites. They would Judeans.
So what you're referring to then in Revelations in chapter 2:9 and 3:9, it says that the synagogue of Satan. Okay, so it's not Jews then, as you're saying either. Because they're not Jews.
That word
they're the people
is not
claiming
even supposed to be there. It's supposed to be Judeans. Judeans.
Okay.
Which is one of the tribes. Judea was one of the tribes. You had the 12 tribes. Okay?
Yeah.
When they left Israel back then and they went into Europe, they went through the Caucasian mountains. That's where you get the word Caucasian.
Okay, so we can agree on this. The people who are in power over there are not who they profess to be.
No, they're not.
Okay.
I would say 98% of them are not.
Okay. Now, we can demonize the people who are claiming to be Jews but are not, and their tactics, because what they're doing is wrong. Just like what any criminal element of any government is doing is wrong. What we have a problem with is coming after the people of Israel. The Israel as a nation is where our problem lies. Not with the people who secretly run it. Because we know those are bad people.
The ones over there in Israel, they're the real terrorists.
Just like our government.
Their bidding. Most of the wars, we're doing it for them. We're blooding our shed for them. We're kissing their butt. All the politicians have to kiss their butt. They get their money. The AIPAC gives them their money. We don't have a true government anymore. There's no such thing as left and right. We haven't had a true government since before the Civil War. Okay, we don't have a lawful government. It's all codes, regulations. Okay, we don't have true laws anymore.
What does that have to do with your incendiary statement of Jewry running the banks?
But they're
Jewry.
all behind all this, and you're saying you're saying that the Saudis are the problem. No, it's the Jews. They're the ones that are causing all these problems. They're the ones that are making.
No, it's the Satanists. And whatever they like to be called on their earthly names, whether it be Jews or Gentiles or...
Why can't I hear anymore?
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted the caller, and I was muted.
All right.
They're not called Jews. They're not called Gentiles. These people are called Satanists. The ones who are perpetrating the evil across the world, regardless of governments, regardless of landscapes, countries, monies, currencies, whatever. They're Satanists.
But see, okay, here's the thing. Look, we've given the caller, I think, sufficient time to express his indignities toward the Jewish people, and I understand where this caller is coming from, because
we hear a lot of this from a lot of places.
He's a little chattering robot that does nothing but repeat and repeat and repeat the things that he hears, and it's called surface research. Okay, in other words, you can easily find anti-Semitic information on the internet. I'm in no mood to get into a discussion about this, and you might think that this is an out or an easy out, but it's our show. The bottom line is this: you start blaming the Jews for anything like this, you are simply repeating the mishmash pablum information that you get off these anti-Semitic websites without doing your own research. Do your own research, sir. Find out the historical and religious claims that the Jews have to the land of Israel and beyond. Study history and study the Bible, and then after you get to come back to us, and then we'll have an intellectual discussion. But don't insult my intelligence, Joe's intelligence, or by far the intelligence of our audience with your crap, with your uneducated
racism and marginalization.
Okay, period. Don't do that. Don't diminish the intellectual aspect of this program by just being simply repetitive, repeating stuff you see or read on these websites that want to blame the Jews for everything. Next thing, you're going to be telling me that, of course, the Holocaust didn't happen. I've seen these callers before. I've been on radio for 10 years. Look, I understand. I understand where this is going, and we're not going to spend any more time on this. Let's move on.
Okay. Let's go to area code 916. You've been on hold for a while. 916, we're coming to you. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, God bless you, Doug and Joe. The devil is a liar. I'm actually going to Israel next week. And so I know this is a Holy Spirit moment, so I just thank the Lord. And we just bind that spirit right now in Jesus' name. It says that the Lord dwells in Zion. So if we're the temple of God, what does it make us? Isaiah 1:26 and 27 says, I will restore thy judges as at first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with judgment, and her converts with righteousness. And, I wanted to thank you because I got introduced to your show a couple weeks ago, and it's been a breath of fresh air. I listened to a lot of the Watchmen, Nathan and Shannon and different individuals, and this has been just a great blessing to me. And I know by the Holy Spirit that this was no coincidence that I'm speaking to you right after that gentleman. And I think of the scripture of Joshua 5:13, where Joshua has an encounter with this man, and it's the commander of Yahweh's army. And he asks him, whose side are you on, ours or theirs? And the commander says, neither. And that was a depiction of Christ coming as the leader of God's army. And it is it's an exciting time, and one of the things I know that I'm on assignment is Zechariah 8:16, and this scripture, Joan Doug was introducing me last year, and I've been doing it with truth and with peace. Shalom. 8:16 of Zechariah. These are the things that you shall do. Speak ye every man the truth to his neighbor. Execute the judgment of truth and peace in your gates. And let none of you imagine evil in your hearts against his neighbor. And love no false oath, for all these things that I hate, says Yahweh. And, you know, we can assume this last caller, and I just ask that the peace of God would be upon him, that power, love, and a sound mind will be released from heaven, Father God, so that he gets an understanding. But this is a spiritual war, and you know, we're pressing on.
Amen.
Amen, indeed.
Is there anything else,
God
caller?
bless you.
I mean, that was a great... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to just, and you're encouraging me, and I wanted to just speak the encouragement back to you. You know, Joshua says, you know, be courageous. You know, be not dismayed. There's a lot of that going on in the land right now, and we just got to continue reminding the devil he is a liar. And you know, they want to ban all these things, and one of the tools that I've been using against Satan is that I say no to banning plastic bags, no to banning pressure cookers, no to banning guns, no to banning knives, no to banning explosives, but yes to banning Satan.
I'm with you there. What about 20-ounce sodas?
No, 32-ounce,
man. Mr. Pitt is good every once in a while. But yeah, what part of the country are you guys based out of? The West Coast or the East Coast, or
Western Pennsylvania, Northwest Pennsylvania, right on the lake.
Oh wow! Okay, amen. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm leaving this Sunday, and you know, I've been blessed to go. This will be my 6th time, and I've been 3 times with ministry groups, and then this will be my 3rd time, just me and the Holy Spirit. So I'm real excited about. One of the scriptures he gave me was Isaiah 42. Behold, my servant whom I uphold, my elect, and whom my soul delighteth. I have put my spirit upon him, and he shall bring forth judgment to the Gentiles. And anyway, God bless you guys, and may the Lord's fire and glory from Zechariah 5 just increase in and around you, divine protection, and just keep being strong in the Lord.
God bless you too, and I hope you have a safe trip. And call us when you get back and tell us how what did you say? This will be your sixth time going over there?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've got. Wow. I've got a. Let me grab my shofar. I'll give you guys a little shout out with my shofar.
Do that. And folks, turn down your microphone or turn down your speakers here. Just a warning. If
this is my small one. Hallelujah.
That's the blowing of the shofar. Very good caller.
Well, thank you guys.
All right.
And God bless you guys.
God bless you, man.
Too.
And shalom.
Shalom.
All right.
Nice. Excellent call. Yeah, I hope he's safe on his travels. I want to hear from him when he gets back. Area code 303. We're coming to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
They were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one that had authority, not as one of the scribes. And there was in the synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, saying, Let us alone. What have we to do with thee, thou Jesus of Nazareth? Art thou come to destroy us? I know thee, who thou art, the Holy One of God. And Jesus rebuked him, saying, Hold thy peace, and come out of him. And when the unclean spirit had torn him, and cried out with a loud voice, he came out of him. And they were all amazed, insomuch as they questioned among themselves, saying, What is this? What new doctrine is this? For with the authority commandeth he even unclean spirits, and they do obey him. And immediately his fame spread abroad throughout the region and round about Galilee. I just want to say shalom to my brother that was just playing the shofar. And to all the Judean listeners out there.
He was saying shalom to the man playing the shofar. Is that how you say it? Shofar?
My hearing aids, maybe, I think. Yeah, shofar. Shofar, right. Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you very much for that scriptural reference and for your
always inspirational.
Definitely, and you know that should tell us something. I mean, people need to stay close to the scripture, especially in these days. And thank you for bringing that up. Those scripture references, we always welcome that.
Blessed is the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. I just want to speak on the caller before last, who is definitely a little misguided in his diatribe. There are those who call themselves Jews but are the synagogue of Satan. The Rothschilds identify themselves going back as Jews. There's a lot of people that misrepresent their religious outwardness but are absolutely Luciferians and Satanists. They use their monetary system to destroy the world and enslave humanity. And they also use the Judean name to demonize God's holy people, the Israelites. It's always happened through the diamond trade, the banking cartel. I'm sure there are certain people who are the synagogue of Satan that were behind 9/11, and they are behind the strings that are puppeting our public leaders. But not for one moment should we take our eyes off the fact that, and what is Jesus Christ and his disciples, the traditions they followed, they are God's people. However you want to call them, the ovens in Auschwitz and all throughout Europe and Germany were filled with those who were the followers of God's traditions. But we should never take sight off the plight and 6 million people that were murdered for what their beliefs were, and the great I Am, the most ancient of days, Yahweh, and his son Yeshua HaMashiach. Of those that died in the Holocaust, I believe a quarter of them were Messianic Judean, like myself and many of your listeners. Jesus Christ is God. Yeshua is our Savior. There's so many lies. Satan came to steal, to kill, and destroy. And we should never for one moment take our eyes off of history, because when we forget history, it begins to repeat itself.
Absolutely, caller, and your reference to the caller before last, I do know that somebody in our chat room had posted a link to a PDF, which I've actually have the printed copy. It's Israel 101. It's produced by an organization called Stand With Us. It's a I don't know, it's like a 45-page brochure about the facts about Israel and about the history and their legitimate claims to the land, actually. And caller, I want to say this too, and to the listeners. Look, I do understand the arguments. It's not that I don't understand Zionism. It's not that I don't understand political Zionism. It's not that I don't understand this. It is the entire argument when we talk about this is misrepresented, and even callers who bring up political Zionism cannot articulate their position on the level that it needs to be discussed. In other words, I mean, we could talk about the Balfour Declaration and what that stood for and the people behind that and the reasons for that. You've got to know, you've got to have a good, solid grasp on history. But in the end, it's God's chosen people. Israel, God's land. God claimed ownership to that land. That's God's land. Don't mess with God's land. don't mess with Jerusalem. Don't try to divide Jerusalem. Of course, you're not doing that. But all of it's not a discussion. The callers like that are great at hit and run. Attempts to really divide and to stoke things up, and I'm very familiar with callers like that. But again, the conversation has to be done in a broader and much more understood context than callers like that. But caller, you are a treasure to the show, and I just want to let you know that. And all of our listeners are treasures, but you're a treasure to this program. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you guys very much. Blessed is the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Lord and Savior. Praise you, Lord.
God bless you and shalom. Thank you so much for your call.
Yeah. No, I see his number all the time when he calls in, and I always know when I press that button, I'm going to hear some scripture or an inspirational quote. That's right. And that's why I love taking his call. As we need to hear inspirational quotes, we need to hear good news. We need to hear the word of the Lord in these times that we live in. I mean, look at what we're talking about in the news. We're talking about World War III. We're talking about, our own government's plotting against us to kill us, basically. We're talking about our government's coming against the Lord openly, saying, your religion is a religion of hate, and you're going to have to go out of every facet of our society, whether it is in the military, whether it is in the schools, whether it is in your own private mind.
This is the active expungement of Christianity from a of a nation founded in Judeo-Christian principles. Now we can argue our founders weren't Judeo-Christian. Once again, I understand that argument, but the fact of the matter is, this country was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and the people who are in power today are ripping that Judeo-Christian ideology or that belief system out of this country to our peril. And if we allow this to happen, we are going to be held accountable, especially if we don't sound the warning bells, as stated in Jeremiah. So we are simply doing the job by saying, look, you can't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing this. Now we have to draw the line in the sand here. And folks, what we saw in Boston, and my comments on Boston is this: you're going to be seeing, as I said, intimated earlier, you're going to be seeing people getting caught in traps on the internet. Those people who, with good intent, are attempting to say something was wrong with Boston, and are forwarding emails and are saying things that are slightly incorrect, and are passing misinformation, or are not doing their homework and research. And what's going to happen is you're going to have once again the Bill Kristols of the world and the Brit Humes of the world who believe, and I believe that they believe that they're better than the rest of us, but they're sock puppets. That's what they are. They're sock puppets. But see what happened in Boston, the city where liberty, independence, if you will, was arguably founded. Our innocence was taken away once again. Our freedoms were taken away once again. And as Barbara, thank you, Barbara, for the email, points out, a new name for martial law is to shelter in place. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing the incremental and not so incremental attacks on our ability to be mobile and our ability to move and to conduct commerce. Imagine being in Boston or in Watertown at the time of this shelter in place, at the time of this martial law implementation, and not being able to do commerce, not being able to go get formula for your child, not being able to get home or to work or whatever it is might be. This is what martial law will look like in America in different parts of the country. If you want to know what it's going to look like, just look at what happened in Boston, and you see people being taken from their homes at point. under which constitutional or which part of the Constitution or which constitutional amendment grants this government, this administration, this regime, the allowance? Where's the allowance for that by our civil rights, civil liberties, and by our laws, even by the codified laws? We are watching the destruction of this country. We have to put our foot down and say, no, this is not going to happen. And to do that, too, we have to get to our sheriffs. We have to get to the frontline people, the people on the front line, the boots on the ground. We've got to convince them that what they're doing is not in accordance with our best interests, and we have to tell them, educate them, and say, we're not going to stand for this. And we have to do this collectively because it's a lot harder. And think back to that Tiananmen Square, that young man standing in front of that tank. Imagine if there would be 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 standing in front of those tanks. What a greater statement that would make. But you had the guts. That man had guts and courage to stand and make a statement. And eyeball to eyeball with that tank commander, are you, listener, going to be that man in Tiananmen Square? Do you have what it takes to be that man in Tiananmen Square? Because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take that level of courage, that level of commitment, and that level of spiritual, solid spiritual belief that what you are doing is correct, because the alternative is unthinkable. Yeah, understand this. You're already allowing yourselves to be sexually assaulted at the airports. You're already allowing yourselves to be subjugated by a school system, or your children to be subjugated by a school system that is indoctrinating your child or your children. Why aren't you homeschooling your children? Why are you allowing this to happen to your children?
Well, I don't know. Were you here the day I read the article about the Department of Justice saying banning homeschooling does not violate constitutional rights?
Yeah. And where's the outrage over that? Where is the media covering this kind of these travesties? You see, the redefinition that we're experiencing, by the way, the judicial system, the last line of defense, our last line of defense is redress through the court system.
Legally through our through our country, trying to,
it has
real. But go ahead.
No, but have we not reached a point in our country where the entirety of our judicial system has been corrupted to the point where we now lack that ability to stand up or to seek redress through our court system? I think we have. So what do we have left? We've got what we call jury nullification. I mean, we can be activists as jurors, for example, when we see wrongs being committed by the government. You know what we need, and I was talking with my intelligence insider, if you will, and with Boston folks, we should demand a grand jury investigation into the death of the older brother of that Boston bombing. Now think about this and follow the logic, only because I'm not saying that this older brother was clean and was a good guy, but he was murdered. I mean, okay, so we need to find the truth. We need to know exactly what happened in Boston on April 15th to 2013. Are we going to get it from our government? No. How can we get it? We can get it through a grand jury process, or in that process where it would be transparent. In other words, and I understand grand juries are not transparent; they're not open. But in a special prosecutorial type of setting, we need the truth about Boston, every bit of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we're not going to get it from any one of the networks, and that includes Fox News. We're not going to get the truth behind it, especially when you consider the potential involvement of a Saudi national. And then you consider that Fox has relinquished about 12% of their corporate ownership to the Saudis themselves. Do you think that we're going to get the truth behind, well, even Benghazi, let alone Boston? Of course we're not. Does that make Fox News completely irresponsible? No. All I'm saying is you've got multiple agendas out there. We need a venue that is without agenda, or the only agenda is the truth. And we need it all laid out on the table for everyone to see, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If we had assets, which I believe we did at the finish line, intelligence assets at the finish line, if there was a drill, which has been confirmed multiple times, what was the nature of that drill? Was it were those explosions, was that an artifact of a drill gone bad? Was that an artifact of a staged, a false flag type of an attack, if you will? Was that pre-planned? Was that premeditated by, or was that even known by our own intelligence agencies? We need to know the facts. We need to ask these questions without being marginalized. Don't look at me like, don't look at me or any one of our listeners. Don't you dare, newscaster, look down upon anyone asking these questions, or look upon us with disdain, or like we don't deserve answers. We're tired of being treated like we're 2-year-olds or subjugated to a system that has been corrupted to a point that we cannot even have a legitimate discussion. We must get answers. We must ask the questions, and we must not be vilified by asking the questions. We must not be afraid to ask the questions, and we must demand answers. You see, when Janet Napolitano said, I'm not even going to dignify that question with an answer, that Congressman, Jeff Duncan, should have turned right around and said, oh, yes, you will. Oh, yes, you will. You will answer it. You will answer it right now. Right now, you will answer it. We need to hold our public officials accountable. They work for us. We don't work for them. We are not their subjects. We're not. Don't you dare look down upon us for asking these questions.
That's right. That's right. We cannot be marginalized for asking questions. The moment we allow that to happen, the moment we let the Bill O'Reillys tell us to shut up, the moment we let the Rachel Maddows dictate what is truth and what is not truth, is the moment all hope is lost for the people of this nation. We will continue to be on the front lines telling the truth to the best of our ability, the truth as we see it in the news, and more importantly, the spiritual truth, which is the Word of God. No truth can come against that truth, which is the Word of God.
No alternative agendas can come against the Word of God. And you see, we all need to be, in my view, we all need to be as clear as we can be, or as clean as we can be when we reach that judgment day, because we don't know if we're going to be alive tomorrow. Tomorrow is merely a promise. It's not no guarantee. We don't know. And this is something, ladies and gentlemen, I wish that everyone would do tonight, or today, or if it's daytime where you're listening to this, whenever, sometime between now and the next time we get together, ladies and gentlemen, which hopefully will be tomorrow night, just tell a loved one that you love them. Even if you have disagreements, even if you don't see eye to eye, even if you've got internal strife, talk, make yourself a little bit more pliable and understanding to their position. Work together, not against one another. It's so important in these times. You've got to work together. Grab the hand of your mate
90 seconds
and say, look, honey, we're going to get through this together. And if you're alone listening to this, know that God is with you. We're with you. And
That's right.
you know what? You're not alone. You're far from alone.
And before we end the broadcast, I want to remind everybody, Wednesday we will be joined by Nathan Liao, Watchman's Cry. He's been a guest a few other times on the show. Very intelligent, very spiritual man.
60 seconds.
He was the one who had the visions or the portals. He came on to talk about the portals from the Super Bowl.
Right.
And he'll be coming back on Wednesday.
It's been a great program, folks. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I want to say hello to the listeners in, I can't even pronounce this name, it looks like we have a new listener base in, I think it's the Netherlands. So want to say hello to you folks, as well as the new listeners that I've heard from during the show from the Pacific to the Atlantic. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Those people as well in Canada, God bless you. God bless Canada. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all your support. Once again, please check out the article, Bad Mood Over America. That's at CanadaFreePress.com. Leave your comments there, as well as HomelandSecurityUS.com. Please share the article through your social networking. And until tomorrow, God bless you, and stay safe.
Have a good night, everyone.